Hello, students. So this time I have prepared a very short lecture about wage differentials. Okay, so let's start. So this is all about wage differentials. First of all, what do you mean by wage differentials? This is basically the difference. Okay, why is it that wages differ from person to person, from worker to worker, from firm to firm, from province to province, from country to country? Okay, so first of all, there are four major forms of wage differentials. Number one is individual differences among people. So even if many of us believe that everyone is created equal, uh, the labor market is one of the environments or milieus that would not attest to the fact that people are created equal, because there'll always be differences in skills, talents, experiences, performances, which become the basis of individual differences in wage. Number two is job differentials. We will discuss this later. Number three, industry differentials. And number four, regional differentials. So first on individual differences. Number one, education and training background. This is anchored on Gary Becker's human capital theory. So, of course, the higher the educational attainment of a worker is, the higher that worker can demand on wages, on wage rates. And of course, continuous training. If there are two workers who are both holders of license in, let's say, certified public accountant, if one stopped um, attending trainings and courses, and the other one continuously uh, finds opportunities for training and further education, updating on his profession or discipline, that worker who continues to make himself or herself informed and trained would naturally get a higher wage. Number two is age, seniority, and or cultural background. So the age carries with it experience. Of course, seniority also carries with it some kind of expertise, because the person has been doing a particular work over and over again, and through time that person learns from his mistakes and is able to grow and become better in his craft. So it's like a knife that continues to get sharpened, and therefore that particular worker can demand higher wage, and employer are very much prepared to do so. Again, even if there are many organizations and groups of people who say that there should be no differences in wage based on ethnicity or race or cultural background, it still happens that differences in culture and background, race, religion would spell some difference in the wage rates. And number three, individual track record, popularity, and uniqueness. It's a fact that there are people who are more skilled, more talented, more popular, more sociable, and can are able to cope with difficulties and challenges better than others. There are people who can cope with difficulties, and there are people who get tougher during tough times, while there are people who are not, who surrenders in the middle of the battle. So again, this would spell a difference. Those who are ready to face challenges and difficulties and get overwhelmed with failures, and hardships would be able to demand higher wage because they stay through thick and thin. So the workers, the employers who are giving the wage would of course prefer to have workers who will be with them during times of difficulty. So that the employers would be able to maintain these workers, they would have to pay them higher wage. The next set is job differentials. This is from Adam Smith. There are certain jobs that would have to be paid higher, or else we will not be able to maintain the workers on those particular jobs. Number one, difficulty or easiness of the job. So difficult jobs would get higher pay than those that are easy. Honorableness or dishonorableness. Not all people would want to work in in clean offices, air conditioned. So, like, there's a study that says plumbers in the U.S. are getting higher income than lawyers and teachers. So, we're not saying plumbers are dishonorable while lawyers are honorable, but it's more on the environment and that the work the work surroundings of a particular job. So the relatively dishonorable jobs would get a higher pay because not all people would want to take these jobs, and um, shortage would mean higher price. Number three, cleanliness or dirtiness. So this is related to number two. People, of course, would want working environments that are clean. So there are more applicants for cleaner jobs and less on dirty jobs. So the dirty jobs would have to be paid higher to maintain and to attract more workers. Number four, cheapness or expense of learning the job. So a profession take that would require additional years after college, like law, medicine, master's degrees, PhD degrees, would be an expensive way of learning the job. So it would um, earn the worker higher wage. And the cheapness, of course, if you don't need to spend so much time and money for a particular job, then it would not be able to get higher wage, like janitor, which can be assumed by a high school graduate probably. So the wage is relatively lower. Number five, easiness or difficulty of learning the job. So again, this is related to number four. If a job is much harder, then it would have to require higher wage. Number six, constancy or inconstancy. So this one is for the regular 8 to 5 job, and not so regular, but once the opportunity for that particular job is there, it would pay relatively higher. So constancy would be the 8 to 5 jobs, the employees of the government, employees of schools, employees of banks, malls, probably. While for the inconstancy, that would refer to real estate brokers. So they would only sell a real estate property probably once in a year, but once the transaction is closed, they'll be richer than those in the regular jobs. Number seven, smallness or greatness of trust. So if a job requires greater trust from the employer, of course the employer will have to pay higher wage for that job. Greatness of trust, like lawyers or doctors. While smallness of trust would be like house cleaners, but you also have to trust your cleaner. But a house cleaner, if a house cleaner does not do his job well, then it's not going to be a life or death situation, unlike for a doctor. So greatness of trust would demand a higher wage. Okay, the other one is industry differential. So some industries, as I've said earlier, pay higher while some industries lower. It would be because of economic standing of that industry. If that industry is um, one of the booming industries in the current economy, then of course it can afford to pay its workers higher wage. Plays in economic trends like globalization, information technology. If an industry's scope is international, of course, it will not only hire large quantity of workers, but also higher. It can also pay higher amount of wages. Like, of course, we have Amazon and then Tesla and YouTube, Google, Facebook, all of these industries that have international market. Okay. And of course, the nature of work of the industry. So as I think I mentioned already, real estate industry have would be able to pay their workers higher wage. Unlike, for example, if you're in the laundry industry, is that would not be able to pay higher wage because the proportional revenue is also lower as compared to real estate, of course. And those in the manufacturing will be able to pay higher wages than those in farming, for example. And finally, on regional differentials, so center or periphery, those workers in the center of the geographical center of a country or even the world would get higher pay because this is where the hub of commerce is. Like, and then the periphery would be on the provinces. So center would be the Metro Manila in the Philippines, and peripheries will be like Camarines Sur, and then municipalities and provinces in the Visayas and Mindanao. In the global perspective, the center would of course be New York, London, and peripheries would be like the Philippines and Indonesia, Malaysia. But they're also centers in their own way, as far as products are concerned, particular products. Number two, urban or rural. So those workers in the urban centers would be paid higher than those workers in the rural communities. Okay, that's all. So these are my references. So thank you, students. You will use this for the modules in our class. Thank you and good day.